The build-up to this weekend's match between New Zealand and South Africa feels a bit different. Do you remember like the amount of hype and intensity there was around that game at Eden Park? It stands to reason the 31-year unbeaten record at the spiritual home of New Zealand rugby and the chance for the world champions to take an incredible scalp. It was almost a game that transcended the rugby championship. It felt like a one-off, akin to a World Cup final. This one, not so much, but part of that is, because we're all coming down off of the incredible intensity of last week, but also partly due to the teams that both head coaches have selected. The New Zealand team has been announced, and it's not just RASSIE Erasmus who has given us a glimpse of a potential team in 2027 and handing chances to the next gen. Not just RASSIE who is going with express pace. Scott Robertson is doing it as well. Razor has swung the axe, and Razor has offered up opportunities in his squad for this second test. And yeah, the big headline, Leroy Carter in on the wing, and Rieko Ioane is dropped. Now, there was a bereavement in his family, and I thought at first, because I'd heard that, that was the reason why Rieko Ioane was not picked. I mean, maybe it has affected his mindset. I don't know the ins and outs. I hope he and his family well. Wish them the very best. But that is confirmed by the official statement. That is not the reason why he wasn't selected. So he has been, for all intents and purposes, dropped from the 23 for this one. And that means in this game, we have two wingers who are going to be opposite two of the best on the planet. Maybe if you were picking a World 15, well, actually, there'd be a few others in contention, but certainly in the conversation for a World 15 back three, you would have Will Jordan and Cheslin Colby, and they are going to be opposite newbies in Ethan Hooker and now Leroy Carter as well. That is going to be fascinating to watch. I want to know, and the big question when I look at this New Zealand team is, did Razor react to the Bok team? Or did they both have the same idea? To blood some new players and to possibly, we'll wait and see how it goes this weekend, but to possibly change the way they play a little bit. I'm guessing it's the latter, and they just both had the same idea. They put so much massive emphasis on Eden Park as a bit of a one-off game, but this game they've got just a little bit of an eye. They want to win the match, obviously, and both teams are setting themselves up to win, but just ever such half an eye, a quarter of an eye, a little bit in the back of the mind, thinking about 2027 and preparing a squad for that and using this game as a chance to get some much needed game experience into some of these players and see if they can cope in the pressure cooker. Because I think most teams will announce internally their squads. I think South Africa do it on a Sunday. Most teams do it on a Sunday or a Monday. And South Africa's team was announced on a Monday evening. So my best guess is that the ABs would have already picked this squad and announced it internally to the group before South Africa announced their squad. So it's just quite interesting that both coaches seem to have a similar kind of mindset. It's not a total overhaul for New Zealand, but it's enough change that it feels significant. And it looks like it does signal a potential change of intent. I don't know what you think about that. Please let me know what you think in the chat down below. Give the video a thumbs up and hit subscribe. If you appreciate the content on the channel, I would love you to get stuck in. But get this, right? So we were looking at the South Africa team on Monday and talking about the kind of evolution, and Rassie's really been bold with his selections. Here's a stat for you. I think I'm right in this. 10 of that 23 for New Zealand were not used by the previous, up until the end of the World Cup 23. 10 of the 23 have been introduced by Razor since he took over as New Zealand head coach. Fabian Holland, Simon Parker, Wallace Satiti, Duplessis Karifi, Brodie McAllister, and in the back line, there's 4 more, Billy Proctor, Noah Hotham, Leroy Carter, Ruben Love. That's 10. And compare that to South Africa just briefly. South Africa, we're talking about, Rassie's really gone experimental with this one. 5 players for South Africa were used up until the end of the World Cup. 5 new players since the World Cup. And they are Just looking at them, it's Jan-Hendrik Wessels, Ruan Nokia, Sasha Feinberg-Ngomazulu, Ethan Hooker, and Marnus van der Merwe. So you could make the argument that New Zealand are being more experimental than New Zealand. What? It's really, really interesting. And it's almost like, do you know what it's like? It's like Scott Robertson's gone onto social media and just said, "All right, you know what? I'm going to listen to what all these noisy people on online are saying, and I'm just going to pick my team from that." Because it feels like the sort of thing that you know when fans, especially on social media, love the shiny new toy. I'll tell you what, New Zealand fans have got their shiny new toys here, haven't they? It's going to be interesting to see how does it affect the way New Zealand play. The pack has definitely improved as a unit overall, and the Crusaders' influence on the coaching ticket has brought that through. And you know what? In last week's game, line out, breakdown, the detail that they had there in those areas, the rugby brains and rugby IQ that they showed, Tupu Vai getting and Scott Barrett getting the better of Eben Etzebeth and Ruan Nokia. The back row, Ardy, Simon Parker coming straight in and, you know, having an absolutely huge game. So they've definitely increased the quality in their pack. South Africa will be hurt at that. That kind of will cut to the very heart of that team, and those forwards in the South Africa side will feel like their pride has been challenged, and they will want a reaction. Lomax and Taukiaho are into the front row. Cody Taylor is out. That's a big blow. He's been one of their talisman over the last couple of years. Tyrell Lomax starting. He got monstered by Oxen Che when he came on. He's going to have to see if he can do it from the start this time, but he is a big game player, and he'll want to make a statement himself. Samisoni Taukiaho was absolutely excellent when he came on last week. He was really good, and I wonder if he might put in something like a 65, 70-minute shift this time, because Brodie McAllister, huge moment for him. Back five of the scrum, it's as you were. Can they get themselves to that same emotional level again? That's going to be one of the challenges. Satiti was quiet, but he's only just coming back from injury, so he's got a week more rugby in his legs. And actually, watching the game again, Ardi Savia was, rightly getting plaudits. He has big moments, and it was his 100th appearance. When I watched it again, I did think, you know what, Ardi Savia was quiet by his very high standards, and so I mean he can improve, and I'm sure will. Like I say, he has big moments. Young forwards on the bench. That would be one little question mark I've got next to this team. When you look at Brodie McAllister, Fabian Holland, Duplessis Karifi, and Tamaiti Williams hasn't been on the international scene that long. Fletcher Newell was not so long ago third choice. You kind of have to put a question mark there when you look at what's coming their way from the bench in the box. And as for the backs, Finlay Christie, brilliant game last week. He's onto the bench. Noah Hotham starts. Leroy Carter on the wing. 1 season in Super Rugby. He scored 10 tries in 17 games. A test debut. This is a massive challenge. Ruben Love on the bench as well. With Will Jordan moving to the wing. Mackenzie to 15. Ruben Love. He can play 15 and 10. I do think, look at that. Does it not feel like New Zealand could potentially be vulnerable if a winger goes down? If Will Jordan goes down, how do they reshuffle that team? You'd have to put someone, you'd have to put someone who's not that experienced on the wing. And I wonder if that was a smart move, because you've got Lester Fainga Anuku. That could have added more balance to the 23. You've got Caleb Clark, 2 NPC games under his belt, and he's not been used. He must be hurting at that. And, Tavatava Nawai got injured, didn't he? So wasn't possible. But just to remind ourselves of that Bok team, again, we thought on Monday, wow, what an experimental team. Sasha, Ethan, Damian Willems are at 12, Kanan Moody at 13. And it is. But actually, you look again in the context of having seen the New Zealand team, and suddenly you look at the back-to-back World Cup winners like Oxenche and Malcolm Marks, and World Cup winner from 2019, Lou Diaga, Sia Khaleesi, Peter Steph-Toy, Jasper Wiese, Kobus Reinach. Willems has got 2 World Cup winners' medals to his name, albeit he hasn't played that much at 12 at international level. Cheslin Colby, Libok on the bench, Esther Hazen on the bench, Grant Williams on the bench, Quagga Smith on the bench, RG Sneeman on the bench, Wilco Lowe, Quadzilla on the bench. And then 2 very promising guys, particularly Jan-Hendrik Wessels, looks like he's going to be a star. I would be feeling, I'm thinking more that the pendulum is swinging more towards South Africa now. On Monday, you were thinking this is a real bold call, roll of the dice. the fact that Scott Robertson seems to have done likewise and has a few key injuries, and suddenly I'm thinking that bench for South Africa, I don't think it's going to be a big win either way. It's going to be tight. And in that context, we'll have a look at my combined team. Yes, I've gone for more New Zealanders in the starting lineup. This is me just picking 1v1. So 2v2, 3v3. 3 was a tough one because Thomas du Toit I thought was better last week than Lomax. Same reason, Vai over Norkia, but those are both tight calls. Barrett over Lud de Jager, that was a tight call. Savia and Khaleesi, both amazing. Satiti and Visa, so 4 and 4 in the pack. I think it's going to be, again, South Africa are going to have the advantage in the front row. Back 5 of the scrum, New Zealand maybe have an edge. In the back line, it's hard to know who's going to have an edge because Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu, if he has good ball, good platform, and the breakdown is tidied up by those South African forwards, we know what Sasha can do. Sasha FM, my favourite radio station, he's a wild talent. And with a second playmaker outside at 12, kind of matching New Zealand with the Barretts, you've got Sasha and Willemse with that Stormers connection. Moody is a beast as well as quick. I tell you what, there is just incredible gas on the field, and you'd like to think we're going to see some tries. It's interesting. When I did a video breaking down, talking about South Africa's selection the other day, one of the things I did point out was the team South Africa have picked is quite similar to the one they selected against Italy. And against Italy, albeit New Zealand are a much better opposition, against Italy, South Africa scored first phase tries. And we're seeing more and more of this. Argentina scoring first phase tries. And the fact South Africa have got such a good scrum means that the New Zealand forwards are going to have to stay heads in and pushing. Means there's going to be space. And there is wheels outside and options outside. I just think that the New Zealand have got the challenges getting back up to that emotional level, dealing with the front row issues. Although New Zealand have got more cohesion. When you look at Beauden Barrett, Geordie Barrett, Will Jordan, Mackenzie, they've got a spine of a backline that are really experienced and played together. And their pack is obviously functioning very well. I just think that South African bench, I've only picked one New Zealander on the bench. And I think South Africa will win by, I said South Africa by 3 last time. I think New Zealand have to be in front. I think New Zealand have to be in front going into the final quarter. Possibly need to be more than a score in front. If New Zealand are more than a score in front going past 60 minutes, I think they'll win. If it's within a score, I think South Africa win narrowly, because I think that bench looks irresistible. It's not a bomb squad. It's a 5-3 split, but it's very, very tasty indeed. I'm so looking forward to this match. And fair play Razor and Rassie for rolling the dice a bit. Bring it on. Right, that's my thoughts. Let me know yours. And I'll see you on the next one.